Hello? Hmm. It would appear my camera has decided not to function. I don't know what. Hey, this is so strange. All right, let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
glad
Glad
glad we
glad we
could
could
figure
figure
that
that
out
out
just
just
now.
now.
I
I
started the
started the
stream
stream
just
just
now and I
now and I
realized that
realized
my
that my
camera
camera
wasn't
wasn't
working.
working.
All
All
right.
right.
On
On
that
that
on
on
that
that
note,
note,
welcome to
welcome to
WOYS
WOYS
Live, you
Live, you
guys.
guys.
Welcome to
Welcome to
WOYS
WOYS
Live.
Live.
This
This
is
is
the
the
first
first
show we're
show we're
doing,
doing,
but
but
every
every
Sunday
Sunday
my
my
goal
goal
is to
is to
be
be
live
live
with you
with you
guys
guys
for an
for an
hour
hour,
and we'll
and we'll
talk
talk
about
about
whatever you
whatever you
guys
guys
want to
want to
talk
talk
about,
about,
whatever is
whatever's
topical for
topical for
you.
you.
Maybe
Maybe
something's
something's
going
going
on
on
in
in
your
your
particular
particular
area
area,
and
and
you
you
want to
want to
talk
talk
to
to
other
other
and you
you
want to
want to
talk
talk
to
to
other
other
people
people
about
about
it.
it.
You
You
want to
want to
hear
hear
what
what
I
I
think?
think?
You can
You can
just
just
pop it
pop it
in the
in the chat
chat and
and
we
we
can
can
talk
talk
about
about
it.
it.
So
So
this
this
week,
week,
obviously,
obviously,
I've been
I've been
talking
talking
about
about
the
the
minimum
minimum
wage
wage
increase
increase
that
that
we've
we've
seen
seen
in
in
many
many
provinces
provinces
across
across
Canada.
Canada.
And
And
one
one
of the
of the
videos
videos
I
I
made
made
was
was
about
about
the
the
fact
fact
that
that
Alberta,
Alberta,
of
of
all
all
people,
people,
rich
rich
Alberta,
Alberta,
oil
oil
rich
rich
Alberta,
Alberta,
hasn't
hasn't
increased
increased
minimum
minimum
wage
wage
and now
and now
sits
sits
as the
as the
lowest
lowest
minimum
minimum
wage
wage
in
in
Canada. That
Canada.
was
That
one
was
of
one
the
of the
videos I
videos I
made
made
this
this
week.
week.
Another
Another
video I
video I
made
made
this
this
week
week
was
was
about
about
in
in
that
that
particular
particular
video I was
video I was
talking
talking
about the
about the
justice
justice
system
system
and
and
this
this
idea
idea
that
that
the
the
justice
justice
system is
system is
broken, and
broken,
I
and I
break
break
down the
down the
source
source
of
of
the
the
broken
broken
justice
justice
system,
system,
which
which
people
people
often
often
describe
ascribe
to
to
Bill
Bill
C-75.
C-75.
So
So
that's
that's
why
why
today
today I
I wanted to
wanted to
do
do
a
a
different
different
kind
kind
of
of
I
I
wanted
wanted
to
to
talk
talk
about
about
Bill
Bill
C-42,
C-42.
which one sec. I
I
want to
want to
see if
see
I
if I
can
can
find.
find.
Let me
Let me
get my
get my
chat.
chat.
One of
One
the
of the
weird
weird
things
things
is
is
because I
because I
don't
don't
stream
stream
so
so
often.
often.
Like
Like
I don't
I
know
don't know
where
where
I'm
I'm
acting
acting
like a
like a
90-year
90-year
old
old
who
who
has
has
never
never
seen
seen
tech
tech
before.
before.
But
But
here we
here we
are.
are.
But
But
this is
this
the
is the
first
first
one,
one,
as I
as I
said.
said.
So
So
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
have
have
to
to
figure
figure
things
things
out
out
as
as
we
we
go.
go.
Um,
Um,
so
so
what I
I
want to
want to
see
see
though,
though,
what I
what I
really need
really
to
need to
find is
find is
how to
how to
get my
get my
chat
chat
open for
open for
you
you
guys,
guys.
because that I
I
think
think
that's
that's
important.
important.
That's
That's
important.
important. I want to be able
I want to be able to
to
show you
show you
guys the
guys the
chat,
chat,
but
but
I
I
don't know
don't know
where it
where it
is.
is.
Anyways,
Anyways,
I'll
I'll
figure
figure
that
that
out for
out for
next
next
time.
time.
So,
So,
you
you
guys,
guys,
obviously
obviously
you
you
can
can
always
always
use the
use the
chat, but
chat, but
I'm
I'm
just
just
gonna
gonna
talk.
talk.
And
And
eventually,
eventually,
when
when
somebody
somebody
else
else
joins,
joins,
maybe you
maybe you
guys can
guys can
talk to
talk to
me.
me.
If
If
not, I'm
not, I'm
just
just
gonna
gonna
trim
trim
this
this
video,
video,
make it
make it
a
a
video,
video
anyways, for
anyways
you
for you
guys.
guys.
So,
So
there's
there's
this
this
idea
idea
that
that
catch
catch
and
and
release
release
seems to
seems to
be
be
turning
turning
violent
violent
offenders
offenders
onto
onto
our
our
streets,
streets,
right?
right?
This
This
is
is
a
a
huge
huge
rhetoric
rhetoric
for
for
the
the
conservatives
conservatives
here
here
in
in
Canada.
Canada.
And what I
What I
really
really
want to
want to
know
know
is
is
you guys, when you
when you
see
see
this,
this, I want you to
I want you to get in the chat and tell me what city do you live in, and tell me if how does crime feel in your city? How is your city feeling? Is it true that how does catch and release this idea being pushed by the conservative side of Canada's political dynamic? How is this catch and release affecting you in your region? Do you feel like crime is really rampant? Do you feel unsafe? I want to know. You guys get in the chat. Let me know. Because the reason why I ask you about that, and I'll show you something real quick. Let me just let me show you. Oh, that's not what I want to show you. Um, oh, here I'll find it now. Yeah, police reported crime. So you'll see this I'm showing you on screen, and one of the things I found recently was contrary to this idea that people have been pushing that the crime rate is super high in Canada. Well, it turns out when just looking at the police reported crime statistics that the total crime in Canada has actually been on the decline for the best part of like what is this like 20 years. Well, the best part of 20 years. This particular graphic is showing you the crime rates, the police reported crime rates between 1962 to 2023. And what you see here is that, I mean, clearly you see that the total crime per 100,000 people seems to be declining. It's interesting that people say, oh, crime was crazy under Justin Trudeau. It was interesting for me to see here that it's really it actually was lower in certain points at certain times compared to under Stephen Harper. But that's besides the point. Why does it feel worse? Because I'm not gonna sit here and gaslight you guys and tell you guys that crime doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like stuff is it's dangerous right now. I wouldn't sit here and gaslight you and tell you that I feel safer right now than I felt 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? I shouldn't say 20 years ago, but that I can't sit here and gaslight you and tell you that you feel safer today. So why does it feel worse today than it did all those years ago? What do you think is happening here? Because I've got some ideas, right? In my mind, I think it's because of partly because of social media, right? There's just a bit more amplification of these things, so it feels like stuff is just a little bit crazier, right? But there's also the fact that in the really huge cities, and these are just my ideas here. You guys can get in the chat and tell me what you think. Why do you think crime feels so much worse now, even if the statistics are showing you that crime is actually going down? So, I mean, for me, the other big thing, the other big reason I think it feels like this is just because, well, specifically there are hotspots, right? In places like Surrey in BC, in places like Brampton in Ontario. You might find that places like friggin' what's in Kelowna, also in BC. I'm saying BC places because I'm in BC, so I'm more familiar with the crime statistics around my region here. And the thing is, there are hotspots. There are places that are crazier than others. So in those places, you will see, and I'll show you very soon, that while the total crime in Canada has been going down, really that's a little bit deceiving when you compare, say this is Mississauga, for this is the Peel region, for example. Now, those of you who are not familiar with what the Peel region is, the Peel region is really just Mississauga and Brampton, I want to say. You see here between 2023 and 2024, total crimes actually went up. So again, there's this contrast, as I say, between the total crime in Canada and these to 2025. What you'll notice here is that is that total crime actually went up. Like year to date, In 2025, crime is up what, 26%. So that's why I said I won't. I don't want to. I'm not gonna. Oh yeah, I hadn't popped that up. Yeah. So this is Surrey actually here that I'm showing you here. You'll see total crime here is up 26%. And because I just realized that I didn't show you the Pure region. This is just this is the Pure region here, and again you see the rate of crime is up. What, this is like 12% here. So it's not just in your head. Crime is up. um, Crime is up in certain hotspots in Canada, but overall the total crime rate seems to be down. And I can't say I have the best explanation for this, but let me see if I can pull up you guys' chat here, because I feel like I'm missing out very much on what you guys might have to say, because I haven't prepared as well as I should have for this, because I'm new to. This is the first time I'm streaming with you guys, right? But I prefer to talk to you guys than talking to myself. You see, because I find I will just yap on for the and just keep talking, you know. But I really wanna see if I can pull up the chat with you guys. But what I was saying though before is that, and what I wanted to, oh, Northern Numbers says your audio, my audio has an echo. And he said, could it be that I live in an echo chamber? Good one, good one, good one. You know what? For a while there, I thought my man was serious. And then he got me with that, could it be that I live in an echo chamber? No, I don't live in an echo chamber, my bro. I'll tell you this, the channel here is designed for us to have conversations, right? We're gonna we one of the things you'll find about me if you watch the channel long enough is the fact that I don't care what opinion you have, as long as it's not something where that harms other people, in the sense that if you don't come out mad abusive, I'm happy for you to have your opinion, guys. I'm happy for you to say whatever you want. So appreciate you, Northern. If you guys have watched the channel long enough, you know that I take opinions whatever direction it comes, and I myself don't really stay too much in terms of, like, I can't say that one of the political parties truly fully represents my thought process. Like, you'll find that I have certain positions that you consider more right, and you'll find that I have certain positions that you consider left, right? So that's the reason why I've designed the channel the way I have, to try and, like, try and, sometimes I'll say things that piss you off because it sounds left. I'll say things that piss you off because it sounds right. Anyways, we digress. What I wanted to talk about today with you guys is Bill 242, because I want to keep this really tight. This is the bill that will be getting debated in the House of Commons come next week. So I'll show you that. This one is being proposed by the. It is being proposed by the. It's just taking a while to load up in my streaming software, but this one is being proposed by the Conservatives, and this is their best attempt to fix the justice system. This catch and release system, as I said, that seems to be releasing repeat violent offenders onto our streets with really deadly consequences sometimes, right? So, and the conservatives have been harping on this. Get out of the way, they have told the liberals. Get out of the way and let us fix the system. And let us fix the system. So what I want to get at here is whether you guys think this plan of the conservatives will work. And if you think it will work, well, we can have a debate, a discussion, whatever you want about this. So here's Bill C-242 being proposed by the Conservatives. I'm just going to go through the summary because I think that's probably the most important bit here for you guys. The bill, the enactment amends the criminal code in order to replace the principle of restraint in section 493.1 of the act with the principle of protection of the public. Let me see if OBS. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's finally showing up for you guys because it took forever for some reason. Anyways, so Bill C-242 here is what I'm reading to you. And it's supposed to replace the principle of restraint. I'll tell you what the principle of restraint is later, or if you watch my last video, you will have seen what the principle of restraint is in that particular video. But I'll explain a bit more once I'm done reading this to you. And B, it adds the protection of the public as a consideration in decisions on the release of an accused. And it adds several violent indictable offenses to the list of reverse onus offenses. Reverse onus is also another term there that, don't worry, we can talk about later. Oh, Selvage says I'm echoing. Oh, not the numbers. This is why you shouldn't pull my leg like that. Now I thought you were messing with me, so I was like, he says I'm in an echo chamber, and I was like, yo, the guy was tripping. Anyways, okay. You know what? I'll try to fix that for the next live. I'll do my best to fix that for the next live. I just kind of set this up real quick, thinking it should work. But anyways, can you guys? What I want you guys in the chat, just tell me. Can you make out what I'm saying clearly? If you can hear me clearly, we'll just push on because I don't wanna. I don't wanna waste your time. So you guys just shoot me a message in the chat. Can you hear me clearly? Can you hear everything I'm saying clearly? Anyways, while you guys are typing that in, I'm just gonna proceed here. All right. So, Bill C-242 is supposed to create a list of major offenses. Okay. Okay, another number says I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for as long as you guys can hear me, I can see how I'm gonna fix this because this is supposed to be like a regular feature every Sunday, just for 1 hour. If I spend time trying to fix it now, I'm just gonna waste your time, and I want to give you guys some value before you leave. Okay, so it says create a list of major offenses. The Bill C-242 is supposed to create a list of major offenses composed of violent reverse onus offenses. It's supposed to prevent those charged with a major offense from being released after arrest by a peace officer. It requests that only a superior court judge may determine on a reverse onus basis whether to permit the interim release of an accused if the accused was charged with a major offense while they were on release in respect of another major offense, and if they were convicted of a major offense in the last 10 years. So I think this particular section is the three strikes you're out that you guys might have heard of. This is just what the three strikes are. So if a person has committed a crime in the last 10 years, if they're out on bail for a different offense and they get caught for an offense at this particular time, I think that's what it's trying to get at here. Basically saying, well, those are your three strikes. You don't get bail unless the superior court, a superior court judge says you can be released. And then the next thing that the next provision, the next amendment being proposed by Bill C-42 is to provide for the expiry of the interim release of an accused upon the conviction of an indictable offense while they await sentencing. And it also prohibits those who have been convicted of an indictable offense in the last 10 years from being named as surety. Requires that a justice assessing judicial interim release consider whether or not an accused is a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, and if not, whether they may attempt to leave the country. And it also makes it a condition that those who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents deposit their passports in order to be released whether by a peace officer after arrest or by a justice on judicial interim release. And the last amendment being proposed by Bill C-242 here is to change the standard of assessments under paragraph 515.10b of the Act of whether an accused, if released, will commit an offense or interfere with the administration of justice from a substantial likelihood to whether it is reasonably foreseeable, and require that the criminal history of an accused be taken into consideration. All right, guys. You guys are still here with me, yeah? So the major purpose, it seems, of the conservatives here is to put public safety first above the principle of restraint, which was recommended by Bill C-75. What is Bill C-75? Bill C-75 was a Trudeau era bill, amendment to the criminal code, which essentially recommended that judges release offenders at the earliest possible opportunity, essentially. And the reason why they did that, again, I made a video about this in my last video. You guys can get more details about this. So I might not be as detailed with what I'm saying right now. But in Bill C-75, the idea was offenders, whether they repeat or not, there was not enough clarification in that particular bill, and that is part of the problem, right? There was not enough separation between or on who this bill would apply to, who could get bail under this particular principle of restraint. So there was no clarity on that given by Bill C-75, and at the time the liberals were warned, to be fair. The conservatives did warn them about the fact that Bill C-75 would create this problem. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, right? Libby says the new bill will be tighter on crime. If so, what's the holdup? Okay, I'll tell you what the holdup is, because that's a good place to transit to right now. If you know the origin of Bill C-75, you will know that the reason why Bill C-75 in the first place, I know I'm jumping around you guys, but Bill C-75 was the Trudeau era criminal code reform. And at the time when that particular reform was suggested, people were, there were lots of incarcerations, especially of indigenous and marginalized communities, and the also there was a lot of like a backlog in the court system at the time, and so the judge, the Supreme Court dropped a few decisions around that time that sort of forced the hands of the Trudeau government to reform the criminal code. Essentially, there was a particular case, R.V. Jordan, Regina v. Jordan, the decision on this came down in 2016, and because that case took over 4 years to get to a decision, the case was thrown out. And again, around that time as well, the reforms were necessary, were necessary because at the time the justice system was found wanting in terms of upholding the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And what specific parts of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms am I talking about? So, in a part of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is that people have a right to life, liberty, and what was the other? Let me see where I wrote that down actually for you guys, so I don't butcher it, you know. Where is it? So, obviously, as I said, indigenous peoples were being incarcerated at the rates that was unacceptable at the time. So that is straight up in terms of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The right to equality under the law actually was being contravened at that particular point. The right to liberty before trial, basically, if you believe in the fact that people are innocent until proven guilty, therefore confinement for an undefined amount of time, for a prolonged amount of time before the case is actually tried is it contravenes the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and also obviously the right to life, liberty, and to life and liberty, as I said earlier, was being contravened in with the setup that we had at the time. Yeah, I'm just catching up on your comments here to see if anybody's dropped an opinion. Make sure I didn't miss something. Anyways, so the problem and what I want to do here, and this is the exercise I want to do for you guys. When you compare Bill C-75 to Bill C-48, which is another one, which was the liberals' best attempt to fix what they messed up in Bill C-75. Bill C-42 for sure places the public safety as the primary consideration. Whereas Bill C-75 introduced the principle of restraint, which prioritized release unless detention is clearly justified. Right? In Bill C-75, another feature of Bill C-75 was this idea of reverse onus. And reverse onus simply means that the accused has to prove that they should be released from incarceration, they should be released on bail, essentially. And at the time, in through Bill C-75 and through Bill C-48, which were, as I said, the liberals' best attempt to modernize the justice system and make it better, essentially. The reverse onus expansion only really applied to cases like, I guess, terrorism, cases like intimate partner violence. If a person had a prior conviction, then they would be required under the reverse onus provision to prove that they should be released on bail. But in Bill C-42, which the conservatives are proposing, they say the idea is here is they're creating a broad set of major offenses, that a broad category of major offenses with cases on like firearms, for example, cases involving firearms, sexual things, sexual kidnapping, sexual assault, kidnapping, maybe trafficking, home invasion, those kinds of things. They've created this category. They've expanded that reverse onus requirement, and said, okay, these set of crimes involving, as I said, firearms, robbery, or extortion, arson, assault, those kinds of things would require reverse onus. It would require the the offender to prove that they should be released, right? But the other issue with Bill C-75 that Bill C-42 would seek to fix is Bill C-75 did not clearly define who a repeat violent offender was. And so essentially, because it was so vague, judges, based on what the law said, release people at the earliest possible opportunity with the least onerous conditions, because the concept of repeat violent offenders wasn't properly defined there. That's why you had so many of these people getting released and only to reoffend. But in Bill C-242, that is clearly defined, right? And Bill C-242 says if you've been convicted of a major offense in the past 10 years and you're charged again while on bail, and that's again going back to the three strikes you're out. If you've been convicted of an offense in the last 10 years, you're on bail and you get caught, well, you're done, essentially, right? And Bill C-242 creates that clarity. And I think a lot of, oh boy. Martin says there's a lot of echo. My apologies. I will try and fix that for you guys next Sunday. Next Sunday, I'll try and fix that for you guys. What happened is I just moved to a new place and my house is absolutely empty. It's absolutely empty right now. And because it is so empty, that's why. So, if you guys, if any of you have walked in like like any sort of like sound related sound engineering type of things, it usually is better for you to film in like a wardrobe or something somewhere where being it's better often if you're incarcerated in a small space because the sound just doesn't bounce off the walls. But my my room here that I use to record is empty as as it can be, because I meant for it to be an office. But now that it's echoing so bad, I need to load it up with a bunch of shit. So if you guys had if you maybe I should open like 107.junk and you guys can send me your junk and I can and I can stuff the room with it. Anyways, my bad, Martin. Anyways, where were we? Um. So the part of the problem with Bill C-75 was judges were essentially required. There was a lot of judicial discretion there. Judges basically, based on their own perception of events, could just basically arbitrarily grant bail, almost arbitrarily grant bail, and Bill C-242 will fix that, or it seeks to fix that by limiting those discretion-based decisions. In Bill C-242, only superior court judges can grant bail in repeat major offenses cases. And but part of one of the things though that may be problematic in Bill C-242 is essentially that it requires non-citizens to surrender their passports and considers flight risk in bail decisions. I know some people might find that to be fair, in that this particular rule is not unheard of. I know a lot of countries where if you're a person who is being released on bail, you have to submit your passport. Um, Sometimes even to minor offenses, even until you have your day in court, they will also use your passports. I know a few countries like that, but I can see why this might be problematic. I can see how this can be problematic in Canada because of the way our rules are set up, right? So the counter that the liberals have against the this particular conservative bill is that there are several sections of it that will most likely get tied up in court, right? There are several sections of it that will most likely get tied up in court. So what I want to know is, obviously, I want to know if you guys agree with the premise of Bill C-242. Personally, I like Bill C-242 because I think it takes seriously public safety in a way that I don't think the liberals have in so far, at least under McCartney. Um, I think it takes public safety a bit more seriously, especially in these big cities. Especially because while you might say, well, there's not overall there's not an increase in the number of crimes, and even violent crimes, you could say. And I showed you guys that picture earlier. Um, Again, between as crazy as it might sound, there wasn't a significant increase in total crimes or violent crimes between the Stephen Harper years and the Justin Trudeau years. It's wild to me. I saw that. It literally shocked me. But the fact that in these big cities, in places like Syria, as I told you earlier, places like Kelowna, all these places, you continue to see really gruesome events happening. You see cases where a person is released on bail. I'll tell you, the case of Bailey McCourt, whose ex-husband was out on bail, went out, murdered her. In Kelowna, there's a wild stat in Kelowna and also in BC. Again, I use BC examples because I'm in BC. In Kelowna, for example, Oh, okay. There's a chat here. It says, Adore says, it's good to feel safe and to also have faith in the justice system. I think the new bill might help with that. Okay. Actually, I'll take it a different direction for you guys because this particular um, strategy being applied by the conservatives here has been tried in the US before. And the typical that the liberals try to put forward is often that, well, this didn't work in the US. And if it didn't work in the US, what is the guarantee that it will work here? Why are we importing some US ideas that didn't work for them? What is the guarantee it will work here? You know, it's interesting. I was looking at this and I wanted to see. I went and looked at US crime stats, and because I wanted to see places where this, similar kind of tough on bail kind of regime was used, and compare that to what we currently have now, which prioritizes releasing people out and prioritizes trying to find supports, even if those supports have not worked so far. Um, so while I was looking, let me just give you a summary of what I'm looking at here. In 2025, I found that Maine happens to be the safest state overall in the United States. And Vermont, for example, has the lowest violent crime rate. And what do these two have in common? Both of them have systems that are similar to Canada's Bill C-75, which prioritizes releasing people on bail. Yeah. I saw that. I was like, wow, shit. Well, in New Mexico, I'll tell you the story of New Mexico. New Mexico has tougher bail laws, similar to what is being proposed by Bill C-42. And yet New Mexico struggles with high crime due to systemic issues. And but what story does all of this really tell us? This story tells us that the bail policy alone doesn't determine safety. And that's where I'm really going here. The bail policy doesn't determine safety because and we've seen this in Canada as well, right? If it was in fact true that Bill C-75 somehow wrecked Canada's justice system, you would have seen a very sharp spike in total crimes in Canada, at least within the period that we have stats from when the law Bill C-75 was initially passed in 2019, 2018, all the way to 2023. That's the extent of the data I have now. But we haven't seen that, at least in the total numbers. Okay? So, it would appear that having I'll give you the example of Maine again. Maine uses the principle of restraint, a restraint-based bail model, and they emphasize pretrial release unless there is a clear public safety risk. Okay, I guess that definition of what is clear public safety risk is what is lacking in Canada's Bill C-75. And that is why I feel like there are elements of Bill C-42 that certainly can be adapted. And that's why I don't like this idea of Bill C-242 being dismissed so easily, because personally I would do it all day. But the unfortunate symptom or the unfortunate side effect of that is that it would lead to more incarcerations, but may not necessarily lead to safer streets. That is what I'm. Okay, Braveheart says the U.S. is different compared to Canada. I think it is more important to protect all people in the country than to protect the rights of a criminal. The new bill will not help reduce crime. Okay, you seem to be contradicting yourself a little bit here, because you said on the one hand You think it is important to protect all the people in the country than to protect the rights of criminals. But then you said that the new bill C-242 will not reduce crime. So what's the point? What's the point? The whole point of the bill is to protect citizens, right? Okay, Braveheart. Let's see if you're trying to explain yourself. It says the new bill just ensures that at least there is a little justice and faith in the justice system restored. Hmm. That's not a bad point. That's not a bad point. Um, that's not a bad point. So I think I found what I was looking for in terms of the parts of the. I'll tell you the parts of Bill 242 that might run into some problems in court, right? Bill 242, Bill C 242 expands the reverse onus bill conditions to a wide range of violent crimes like assault, like robbery, like trafficking, like arson. However, and the problem here is that for all these crimes, it shifts the burden of proof to the accused, which, whether you like it or not, for better or for worse, it violates, by my interpretation, and you can tell me if I'm wrong in the chat over here. It violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and you know what? Because the Charter in Section 11D upholds the presumption of innocence. So if you say if we the justice system is essentially built on this innocent until proven guilty, right? So the courts would then have to sort of come to a decision whether this expansion of reverse onus is 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 justified. Under the rights guaranteed in the charter. You see what I mean? So that's one example of a part of Bill C-242 that will inevitably or possibly end up in court. I'll tell you another one that could end up in court. Three strikes, you're out, right? And three strikes, you're out is designed to automatically deny bail to anyone charged with a major offense while already on bail for another major offense, and if they have a prior conviction in the last 10 years. Those are your three strikes. Here's why that might be a problem. It could infringe on, oh yeah, that's the other word I was looking for. It could infringe on Section 7, which is the part of the charter that guarantees life, liberty, and security of persons, right? And Section 9 of the charter, which guarantees protection against arbitrary detention, right? So three strikes you're out says if you take this, and this, you're gonna stay in jail. You're not getting bail. Well, the court now has to figure out how to interpret that relative to your right to liberty and your rights essentially not to be incarcerated arbitrarily essentially. Um, so that's potentially going to be problematic, right? And and I told you guys about the whole passport thing, right? The problem with the whole passport thing is, and as I said, this is not unique to Canada, but if you're saying that non-citizens and non-permanent residents have to surrender their passports as a bail condition, well, I mean, to be fair, if you're going to have people surrender their passport and assess flight risk like that, I think it is silly to target non-citizens and non-permanent residents. You can just, you know what, anybody who is being denied bail like that, because I mean, you could argue a Canadian could also be a flight risk, right? Anyways, this particular part of Bill C-242 may be challenged in court because it could be seen as discriminatory, right? Under Section 15 of the Charter as well. So these are the problems. These are the problems with Bill C-242. I'll tell you another one, right? Bill C-242 replaces the it according to Bill C-242, courts or judges have to assess reasonable foreseeable risk of reoffending. Let me just make sure I haven't missed the chat here. Okay. Braveheart is coming at me strong and says, I am not contradicting. The new bill won't restore the attitude of it won't restore the attitude of criminals. I know I did that voice. It only ensures that at least they won't go scot free. I don't think Bill C-75 was ever saying that people could go scot free. And in fact, I don't think that's the problem people have with Bill C-75, the Trudeau era criminal code reform. The problem people have with Bill C-75 is that while people are awaiting justice, they then go out and they do crazy shit, which we don't want. The problem, POC 242 is trying to ensure that crazy shit is not perpetrated on our streets. You get me? So that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So the problem is never, in my mind, it's not really that people go scot free when they commit a crime. That's not really the issue. I think, although that, to be fair, that's a separate problem. There, and this is a part of our current criminal code that Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, has an issue with. He often says, he told a story at some point. It was like, oh, little Johnny had a bad upbringing, because part of the criminal code allows judges to actually like consider a person's background. So if you're like, oh yeah, you grew up in a tough situation and now you've committed a crime, well, the judges actually were allowed to consider that as part of their decision making. And obviously that has its own that created its own problems as well. Anyways, so that I wanna keep this short today. We've got 10 minutes to the end of the live today. I will figure out the. I'm sorry that the echo has gotten in the way today. I will fill up this room as best as I can, so that the next time I do this, you'll hear less of an echo. It is a big room, and I don't have many rooms available to do this in the house that I currently live in. But I will try and fix this for you guys. Okay, my apologies. But you guys get in the chat and let me know. Do you support Bill C-242? That's what I want to know. And for the next 10 minutes, Mischief, I know I'm echoing. I apologize. I apologize. I know I'm echoing. As I explained, the room I'm in happens to be pretty empty right now because I just moved here, and so until I load it up with a whole bunch of shit, it's just gonna keep doing that. So my apologies for that. But what I was saying, what I want to know from you guys is, do you support Bill C-242? Bill C-242 seeks to put public safety above the principle of restraint, which is Bill C-242 wants to fix this whole idea of releasing offenders on bail, and it wants to eliminate this possibility that they can go forth and commit more crimes. Essentially, it will seek to consider their history before actually approving a bill. It will seek to it will evaluate whether what kind of crime they were caught committing. And so the idea is we won't have violent offenders being turned back onto the streets. Braveheart says the part I really hate is, why should background or upbringing be a factor? Hashtag bleeding heart pacifist. Yo, come on, don't be like that now. To be fair, I have never quite liked the idea of background being used as a factor when delivering judgments. And I mean, one of the things I found very wild was, I saw that judges could also use your immigration status, believe it or not, when delivering judgments, which was crazy, absolutely crazy, because that does have the tendency to lead to a two-tier justice system where a Canadian citizen can get a severe punishment for the same crime as a non-Canadian citizen. I think that is absolutely wild. I think that is. I mean, the idea, the reason why they've done that, and I can see why they. I mean, they've done that from the perspective of, oh, they want to avoid double punishment for people. They want to avoid the concept where a person pays for their crime in terms of, you know, losing immigration status or getting deported, but also spends time in jail. But I think from what I've heard just from the people I talk to that most people would rather be like, you know what, get the same jail term, and if we're gonna deport you, we're gonna deport you. You should be a bit more careful if you're a non-citizen or a permanent resident. If you're not a permanent resident here in Canada, if you commit crimes that require that you be deported, then you should be deported. Is kind of the concept that I've seen. Okay, so Braveheart says yes, I support Bill C-242. So the other thing I want to talk about, because we've got 5 minutes now to go. You guys can. Oh, Braveheart says, bill or not, I think the bigger problem is the shortage of legal workers. Is Canada having legal workers shortages? We have shortages on everything, don't you know this? Yeah, but the fact is there is a price to pay for mass incarcerations. That creates certain problems of its own, and I'll tell you what it is, right? If you prioritize incarceration as against uh, rehabilitation, um, then you end up with jails that are full of people who may or may not have have committed crimes that you end up with a lot of people in jail, I guess is my point. And if you end up with a lot of people in jail, sometimes that creates more problems than it fixes. I.e., I mean, look at the US, for example, right? You just get people who Braveheart is really on this. Braveheart says prison is for rehabilitation, so no bail. Jail will do the work. But I don't think that the evidence bears that out. I don't know that jail reforms people as well as you might hope. But I'm happy to be corrected here. How do you guys see it? Do you think do you think filling up the jails is the way to it will really work? As I said, there's no evidence that it has worked in the U.S. and the U.S. Gives us the benefit of comparing how a system that prioritizes the principle of restraint, that releases I shouldn't say criminals, that releases offenders at the earliest possible opportunity, and focuses on rehabilitating these people. We've seen how that system fares compared to a system that prioritizes incarcerations. Anyways, as I kind of head out now, I want you guys to let me know what you want to talk about next week. Or you can just show up next Sunday, 4 p.m. Next Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. I'll be live again with you guys, and and hopefully I can fix a few of the problems that you guys have told me about. This is the first of a permanent feature of the Wolf of Young Street Live. And those of you who are already subscribed to the channel, thank you for doing that. You guys are awesome. And if you are new here and you don't know what this channel is about, I'm just a guy. I talk about politics a lot because I find it very interesting. And I try and be balanced in my coverage. I try and be because as a person, just the kind of person I am, I find that I don't always agree with what the conservatives are saying or what the liberals are saying. I find there are elements of both that I can agree with. And I find that there's bullshit on both sides. Pardon my French there. I find that there is bullshit on both sides. And with that bullshit, I find that I have to come up with, I have to weigh what is being said to me and decide whether I agree with it or not. And that is how I see politics. I don't see politics as conservatives or and I have to be conservative all the time. You'll find is that I have some conservative ideas and I have some liberal ideas. I have some things that I'm a bit more progressive about. And so what I found is that I have pissed off people on both sides ever so often. But that's okay. That's okay. So if you're new to the channel and now you know what the channel is about, um, subscribe to the channel before you leave, and I'll see you guys next time. I'll just wait around if you guys had any more comments, and before I close up the stream here. Thank you guys for joining today. See you later. Peace. All right.